Just after 9 o'clock on a Tuesday, I have Dr. Aaron Chapa with Living Well Clinical Nutrition Center located in beautiful League City here in studio. I'm going to kick this on the FM. Share this out. Feel free to ask questions. We're going to be spreading some positivity when it comes to health, nutrition, wellness, without the use of drugs and surgery. Here we go. Good morning. This is KHEA Radio 99.5 FM. It's Kickstart. My name is Gardy, and I have Dr. Aaron Chapa with Living Well in studio. Dr. Chapa, how you doing?
Dude, doing fantastic. Glad to be here. Life is good.
Good.
I hope all those out there that are live with us this morning are fantastic and extraordinary. Those tuning in on our podcast and our different social media platforms, welcome. We love it that you are able to go back and catch the shows that you're not able to catch live, that you're able to, just go at your own pace. There's a ton of different conversations that we've had over the last several years, and we at Living Well Clinical Nutrition Center love giving you healthy, wonderful information that you can apply to your day, that you can apply to your week, that you can apply to your month in order to make a difference on how your body deals and manages the times. I mean, definitely we've had some time. Mm-hmm. Right? Some interesting times that we've gone through over the last, couple years. And I think if you look back, I mean, can you believe it's been like, where's the last 3 years been? It's like we all got a small degree plan on how to handle and manage crisis and stresses.
Yep.
And here we are. We survived.
Yes.
And we're surviving.
Yes, I'm surviving.
And many of us are thriving.
Hopefully, I'm trying to get there.
That's right. And we are all should be striving to be thriving and moving onward, upward, goodward, and Godward. And that gets me excited about coming here every week and bringing a new message, repackaged old messages in order to help you realize that, if you keep it simple, you will find the ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure model works. That you can do things in the little over the course of a day, over the course of a week, over the course of time. And guess what happens? You will thrive in a wonderful world that is full of opportunities to be stressed out. You will thrive in a world that instead of seeing the negative, you're able to see the positive, the silver lining. And I mean, I get caught in this. I mean, I'm sitting here preaching to myself right now because I found this this passage up here in, I believe it was in Galatians. Yeah, Galatians 6:9. Let us not become weary in doing good, for at the proper time we will reap a harvest if we do not give up. So how often, that's Galatians 6:9, how often do people, give up on their, the promise that God gave them too quick, too early? God was, delayed or whatever the reason for the delay there be. You gave up too soon and didn't, fully grasp what you were after and attaining. Well, when it comes to health, it's a very interesting thing. It's a daily grind. You've got to be actively pursuing health and reaching for the next rung because your body's getting older and constantly degenerating. That's a biochemical stress that it's going through, right? So every day that we're on the planet, we're also getting older. Interesting. Not that age really matters because I don't think it does, but I mean, at the end of the day, no one gets out of here alive. I mean, that's the interesting realization is that if no one gets out of here alive, then aging in some respects does matter. So I remember a time I used to tell patients, I'm going to be 125, fully functional in spirit, mind, and body, and I want you to come along with me, And, I was praying one time, and I felt like the Lord was kind of just helping me see that He's the giver of the time, but what we really are able to influence is the energy, the vitality, the vim, vigor, and vip that I like to say into the time. What are you giving into the time that you have each and every day that has been given to you? So I think there's a healthy respect on, all right, God gives us the time, but what are we doing with the time in order to maximize our impact? Because that is something that you can make a difference in, and your health determines that. I mean, how many people walking around today have symptoms that are influencing their digestion because of stress? It's called irritable bowel syndrome, or it's called colitis, or it's called I'm in an intestinal flare, or they're constipated, or whatever, because their stress level is too high. So you're telling me that stress can affect my digestion and my absorption? 100%. So we're leading into a talk today around this conversation of stress because we are still dealing with different types of stress. Last week we were talking about environmental stresses. We're talking about allergies. And this week we're talking about just how the body deals with stresses and the impact of stress. That was one of the requests that somebody had last week that they wanted to see us talk about. Well, it just happened to be in a close proximity of KHEA. I was like, sure, let's bump that to the front. Because we're always wanting to make sure that your message is that y'all request are driving the shows, because this is for you. I live this stuff. I do this stuff every day. Like, I'm constantly working at it. I want to give it back to the people that, are supporting us on the show and at our office, and make sure that people have tools and resources to be supported through their week and be encouraged, because, dude, let's not grow weary in doing good. It's so easy. And but we do find that sometimes, we get derailed, and stress can definitely derail us. So how else does stress affect the human body? So we just talked about it can affect digestion as at a particular level of absorption. So like all those wonderful vegetables that you're thinking about eating, what if you actually ate them? What would you actually absorb them? You're only as good as the nutrition that you can absorb. If you're eating poor quality foods, there's not a lot of nutrition in there. But if you're eating high quality foods and you have this expectation that you're going to feel a certain way, but your digestion is altered because cortisol levels from stress are too high. That's a hormone that's produced by the adrenal glands. Or your adrenaline has got you in such a fight or flight mode, and your body is not pushing blood into the rest and digest phase. It's pushing it into the extremities so that you can fight your way out or run like the Dickens, to a safe haven to get away from whatever is, ailing you or potentially going to, attack you, right?
Right.
So digestion is a huge, huge part of what stress impacts, and it decreases this substance, secretory IgA. It's your immune modulator. It can create a level of irritation in the gut lining. This excess amounts of cortisol and adrenaline all the time can create a high heat friction environment in the gut where the gut becomes ulcerated in a sense, wholly or leaky, and create an issue where your body is not even having a chance to absorb it or digest it before it even has an attempt to absorb it, and it sneaks across the lining into the blood supply as a foreign invader, something that your body can't recognize because it hasn't been properly broken down. And when it gets into that bloodstream at that level, now it creates not just digestive inflammation and digestive ulcerations and digestive irritations, it becomes full body spectrum wide, what we call systemic inflammation. You don't want systemic inflammation because now the brain is going to be altered. Your ability to think through a process. Dr. Chapa, I used to be able to handle this, I used to be able to handle that, and now I seem like I got less bandwidth. That is an indication that the brain isn't managing its day-to-day. Well, could it be because of the stress that's from the digestive particles coming across the lining, floating around in the bloodstream, that's going across the blood-brain barrier and creating inflammation in the brain? Yes, that's exactly what it is. I'm glad you suggested such a thing.
I have a question. Is it possible that you get that less bandwidth, but with just one person, and it's not necessarily stress, and it's just
a human?
Just the human?
I mean, are you speaking of somebody in particular?
I got somebody in mind.
Am I rubbing you the wrong way today?
Not you.
Oh, good.
No, my stress,
good.
my bandwidth with you is
No, of course. There's definitely, there's a psychological component for sure.
Okay.
I know you're being a little bit funny, but
I'm
at the end of the day,
too.
you're also being a little bit serious. You're just stating the obvious. Of course, there are certain people that we are way more tolerant with than others. We see this every week if you're a churchgoer. I mean, how many people have had fights walking out the door, all the way in the car, all the way to church, and then they walk in, how you doing? I'm blessed and highly favored today. Praise God. Hallelujah.
It's true. It's true.
And then they get back in the car and they're like, da, 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 da. So, I mean, that happens, right? I mean, we see that with our families sometimes, where our family sees our true colors more than the world. We're able to kind of mask, some of that stuff. So we definitely situationally have a tolerance for certain layers of crazy or stupid or nuts or whatever, right?
Yeah.
And then there's other situations where our tolerance is definitely limited, like where somebody rubs us the wrong way, and man, we just fly off the handle. Maybe we're just having a bad day. That's what a lot of times I wonder some of these road rage situations are about.
Right.
Because a friend of mine told me one time when it came to driving, he goes, the speed limit is in ideal conditions. So is midnight 30 ideal conditions? If it was not, let's just assume that it was a clear sky, right? Heavy, bright moon, street lights are all intact, and it says 65 or 70 miles an hour for dark, but it's 12:30. Well, you think, well, yeah, it's ideal conditions. No, it's not. It's 12:30. You should have been asleep 3 hours ago.
You could be tired. Someone else on the road is tired. There's a lot of other factors.
There's a lot of other factors. So is that ideal? Not really. So if it's sunny, beautiful, it's mid-afternoon, mid-morning, and you're cruising down the blacktop and it is 70 and there's light traffic, there's no rain, there's no, the roads are even so good. Like they got those little grooves in it that you can't. Somebody even thought about your comfort for your ears so that you don't hear the road noise. That's ideal conditions.
I'm going 88.
Yeah, we're pushing the envelope. I like how you think. But whenever there's heavy traffic, when there's rain, when there's moisture in the air, heavy dew like today, it's kind of like it can't make up its mind if it's going to go ahead and drop or not. Maybe it's not ideal conditions because he was always like, in the right-hand lane, the slow lane. And I just was like, what are you doing? Like, why? He goes, well, number one, I left with plenty of time to get to where I'm going. I'm not rushed. Two, I don't, it's not ideal conditions to be, cruising at that high-level speed. And three is, why am I so stressed out that I got to get somewhere so fast? You know what I mean? And I'm like, gosh, don't we all need to adopt such a principle? And we probably would find that we could adopt such a principle and we wouldn't have those fits of rage on the road because we did it enough times in the right-hand lane that we don't find ourselves in a panicked moment where our adrenaline, because of a bad meeting, a bad morning, a bad conversation you had with a loved one, whatever, that triggered you up to that threshold where you are you're less tolerant. And now somebody cuts you off, and you're like, by golly, I'm going to give them a piece of my mind. I'm going to tell them how the cow ate the cabbage, right? And then now you just made yourself look silly. I had another way I could have said it, but I was thinking, should be mindful. So, but I mean, stress is an interesting thing. It causes you to shift down into your brainstem where it's very reactive. It's very primal. It's very not responsive. So when you react to your world around you, you're going to find yourselves potentially making more mistakes and or find yourself in those moments where you kind of you have more regrets of, man, I could have done that better, right? As opposed to living in the response zone. The response zone is in the cortices. And that's one of the psychological ways that you can handle stress is to ask yourself when you're around that person, hey, can I have more grace on that person? Yes, I can. Can I be more tolerant today, even though they're going to drive me bonkers? Yes, I can. If you ask yourself 2 or 3 good questions about the situation, you will actually drive yourself back out of your brainstem, your reactionary regret center, into your response center. You have a smirk on your face.
I'm just reading this. I'm just reading these comments. There's from stressful situations people have been in.
Yo, yeah, hit me up with some.
Well, this is from Celine. She said she had a guy go full on road rage at her and her friend. he got out of the car after he tried hitting us, so I got out of the car as well, and the rest is history. So I'm wondering what history happened. This seems like I should maybe call the police or something. I don't know what's
I know. Well,
that's all.
The fact that she's posting, it means that the rest is history. She's safe and back on the airways with us, and she's left it in the past. That's probably good.
Yes.
But isn't it interesting, right? Like, is it worth, dealing with somebody's crazy? Like at that level, right?
Right. No, it's
because
not.
I mean, people that shift into the primal brain state, I mean, they're not thinking about anything. Like they're not thinking; they're reacting, and so that is an unsafe, unreasonable, disproportionate place that you don't want to get yourself into. Man, I don't even know if I would have stopped. I'd have been like, I'm just going to keep on trucking.
I do give them a fake stop. Give them a stop and then just keep going.
That's right.
Hit that 88
That's
on
right.
the freeway.
Shoot it on up. And, but that it is the threshold, the bandwidth, your ability to handle situations is determined, in my experiences, by nutritional sufficiency. The more nutrient density you have, minerals, vitamins, essential fatty acids, adrenal support, especially if you know that you're already on that road to like high level stress, right? And you're not supporting your body stress-wise. I always joke around with the parents that come in that have like 4+ kids. I'm like, what do you mean you're not taking your adrenal stress support? And they go, well, I just felt like I was doing better. I said, you are a mother of 4 children, aren't you? And she goes, well, yeah. And your husband is self-employed, isn't he? Yeah. Oh, and you are married, aren't you? Yeah. Then you need stress support. I mean, you got a lot going on. You know what I mean? And that is a true statement. I mean, like if people can, and whatever your situation, all of us could benefit from stress support. I mean, we just came out of the pandemic, right?
Right.
I mean, that was a stressful, like uncertain world that we were all living in. And you compound that with job. Now we're compounding it with inflation. Now we're compounding it with, just being able to find help. I mean, there's a lot of still factors that are playing into people's bandwidth tolerance threshold, what's going on in the body. And how is it affecting you? Like, are you an emotional eater? So now you're not eating vegetables and you're reaching to the chocolate more? Or you're reaching to the candy bar more? Or you're reaching to 2 sodas instead of 1? You used to just say, you know what? I seem I can get away with 1, so that's my getaway, right? But, man, lately I've just been giving into that 2nd or 3rd. And then before you know it, you're just over-consuming and junk food, processed food, the 4 deadly food additives, the 4 inflammatory foods, and now the GI tract is inflaming. Again, the liver's backing up and bogging down. The lymphatics are backing up and bogging down. Now your allergies are cray-cray in April, right? Wow. Is that how it works? Yep. So how many people are suffering right now with allergies? Could it be stress-induced? 100%. Again, just because your threshold for psychological events is okay doesn't mean your biochemical, I can handle the environmental elements is okay. You see, your body is always spinning plates. Which plate is most important for your body to handle? Do you have enough skills to manage some of those plates being spun so that you can go back and put a little extra gusto so that you're not having the road rage situation or you're more tolerant of crazy in your life? But man, when it comes to chocolate, you just can't say no. I mean, these are how we start managing, well, what is your stress load? Oh, I have no stress at all. Oh, okay, well, let's look at your diet. How come you're eating so much sugar? Oh, I don't know. I didn't even realize I was. What do you mean? I mean, you've had like 4 candy bars today and a juice box and a soda. And then you had, milk and cream in your coffee. And they go, wow, I didn't realize. And all of that is a perpetuating cycle that is feeding back into creating inflammation in the GI tract, altering your absorption rate, creating systemic inflammation in the blood, which is going to create an overall stress throughout the whole body. And that is what inflammation ultimately is.
Here's a question, and this is good, talking about cycles, and we also talk about nutrition and people learning from their parents. People only know what they have been shown or taught, right? So this has to do with stress. Do you think I could be a stressful person because of childhood stuff, or because someone who raised me was stressed out and that's all I know? It's just a question.
Absolutely. I mean, people most of the time never ever do what they want to do. They do what they know how to do. Most of our eating habits are set in stone by 9. Most of our psychological patterning is set in stage by 5 or 6. I mean, there is so much to that conversation. Now, does that absolve you, me, any of us, to accepting that's how we're always going to respond to those stressful circumstances and stressful situations? That yes, you're always going to have a trigger towards that. But can you develop skills in order to buffer the cue that sends you off the edge or down into your primal state where you're freaking out, you're reacting, and then you're regretting? So the skills can be taught. The skills can be learned. The assessment tools can help you. The biochemical modulation can support you so that you're creating a space, a buffer between you and that trigger, so that you're able to go, whoa, 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 I've seen this pattern before. I know that if I keep going down this road, I'm going to flip out, freak out, react, overreact, and regret. This is the same pattern that happens every time. And so a new skill, such as having adaptogen, Mentran, and Nevaton, or a rest force in your arsenal. And if you took that every day, right? Because you already know that your stress is a 7, 8, 9, or a 10. I always will teach people that if you're stressed out, one of the best ways to note is to go, all right, Chop, how stressed are you today? Yes, you have a lot on your plate. Yes, you're a dad of 4. Yes, you're married. Yes, you're self-employed. Yes, you're expanding. Yes, all these things, right? So I yes myself up on all my stresses and go, yeah, I'm a 7. Yep, I'm an 8. Anytime you're a 7 or above on a 0 to 10 scale, you need stress support. So you think I didn't take a little bit of adaptogen before I came on the show today? A little bit of rest force before I came on the show today? A little bit of Orchex before the show today? Of course I did. Because I want to make sure that my brain is not running at such a rapid speed because I got so much to do that I can't think clearly enough to carry on a stressful conversation, a topic on stress and stressful situations on the radio, on the air. I want to make sure that I can, slow down and take questions, and it's not just something I'm not just checking a box here. I'm in this moment, present, in my cortical space, not in my reactionary, regretful, man, I wish I would have brainstem. Okay? And so I've learned some skills over the time biochemically to modulate, buffer the triggers that push me into reaction. And so you do have a pattern of history that you've been programmed a certain way, but you can reprogram. That is the most amazing, wonderful, adaptive thing about our body and the human experience is our body is adaptable. It literally can turn on a dime if you know how to tap into it, to biohack it, to work with it, to support it in its time of need. So please, for sure, yes, there's a trigger. Understand that is something that is a real deal, but it doesn't have to define you forever and ever and ever. You can break free of that old stinking thinking, if you will, that old mentality that seems to always get you in trouble, that mentality that seems to leave you in regret, that mentality that seems to always let you down, right? And if you're actively pursuing new mindset skill sets, and how to deflect, people's rage on to something else. I have all these things that are coming through my mind, just from a communications perspective. Communications, the universal solvent, the art of asking questions, you know what I mean? Figuring out ways to ask yourself questions in the heat of the stressful battle will force you back into your cortices. Because when you ask questions, you're no longer reacting. You're actually thinking, and thinking happens in your cortical brain, your cortex. And so that's where we want to keep you when the stress comes on. And that'll also, whenever you push yourself back up into the cortices, it begins to allow for healthy, natural physiology to occur. So now digestion is not being altered. Instead, digestion is running like God designed it to. Absorption is happening, assuming that that you want to absorb the chocolate or the junk food. We still got to make sure that you're putting in some decent food, right? Make sure that we're putting in things that don't feed yeast and parasites and bacteria and virus. I was talking to a buddy the other day. I mean, and a mentor of mine, I mean, these are just different thoughts that come up. It's always about infection. It's always about the immune system. It's always about building and strengthening and bolstering and pushing that system deeper and harder, helping the system go find stealth immune burdens, things that the body can't get too easily, how to get the body to go after biofilms and to break those biofilms up immunologically. The body needs immune support, infectious support, always. And that is exciting because we have tools at Living Well to help you even in the stressful battle. You can come in and support the immunity because stress definitely has a negative impact on your immune system. So, when we look at the downward spiral of stress, the body becomes more acidic. From just an overall inflammatory perspective, when the more acidic we are, the more inflamed we are. And that can come from our diet. That can come from our lack of sleep. That can come from our stress about finances, our stress about our relationships. This can be the fact that we're training too much, not training enough. This could be that we're just swarmed in paperwork. This is just on and on and on. Those patterns that we find ourselves in that drive us to this place where our body is just on fire. And we've got to be mindful of that acidity. And so one of the things that we'll do in the office is we'll check the oral pH, and then we'll send pH paper home so that people can check their urine pH and see how acidic their body is. Talking about buffering systems, this is a very quick, easy, painless test to give you a little clue on how acidic you are. I should have brought some paper today. We could see orally how acidic are we. If you're 7.2, 7.4 in the mouth, you're right where you want to be. This is a great screening tool, especially if you're not really in connection with your body much. And you're like, oh, no, my stress is a 2. But your pH, for example, is like, yellow, acidic, 5.5. And it's so acidic, you go, well, I've been like this yellow, almost whitish for the last 2 weeks. What does that mean? That means that your body is, even though that you feel, I think my stress is a 2, your body is giving you a check engine light that stress might actually be higher. Acidity might be higher. The immune stress might be higher than you're able to take account for. So you need to look at the assessment tools that we have. And this is some of the neat things that we want to teach patients on how to take this information in and apply it. Apply it to your life, so that they can see, oh, well, maybe I'm a little bit more than a 2. Maybe, Dr. Chapa, I'm a 5 or 6. Maybe I'm a 7 or an 8. And that way we know how to really get alongside a person and enroll them, because when they start assessing themselves, they're not just wondering why they have a headache. They're like, oh, well, it was the ice cream on Saturday night. You know what I mean? I mean, people still do that, right?
I think so. Speaking of ice cream on Saturday night, here's another question. They want to know your thoughts on people who smoke or take stuff to avoid stress or stress eat. What's your thoughts on all that? Dealing, with the ice cream and
like coping mechanisms, right?
I believe so.
They're just that. They're coping mechanisms. But here's what happens. We know, let's just pick on smoking, for example, that smoking is one of the leading causes to respiratory dysfunction. Let's call that lung cancer. Let's call that, COPD, this chronic obstruction pulmonary disorders. It could be pulmonary fibrosis. It could be some sort of airway restriction where there's so much acid in the body that the natural exit channels are blocked up, and now we're polluting those exit channels with smoke and smog and chemicals and burnt paper and ash that's going to tar up and create a sluggishness in the lungs that is going to create long-term dismay. Now, the question is, but it makes me feel better psychologically at the expense of another system. So, it's robbing Peter to pay Paul. Yes, you temporarily feel good enough to finish the day, the 8 to 5, but you just shaved 10 years off your life. Was it worth it?
Right.
No.
No.
Well, I mean, if I'm going to be in diapers, the last 10 years of my life, and I'm going to be decrepit and cooped up and like an invalid, then maybe it doesn't matter, But who's got that crystal ball? No one. You know what I'm saying? No one knows the end. We all have a set expiration date. I heard it said once that I really appreciate. And so my desire is to put the most energy into the time that I've been given, appreciating that I have also been given an expiration date that I do not know exists. So what about the junk food and the processed food? That's it's our bread and butter right there. That's what we talk about all the time is nutrition. All life starts and stops where? At the cellular level. And nutrition drives it. So if you're reaching for sugar, if you're reaching for alcohol, which converts to sugar, if you're reaching for candy bars, which convert to sugar, if you're reaching for carbohydrates, pasta meals, it converts to sugar. It begins to weigh on you in a negative way. It will disrupt your stress management hormones. It will disrupt your sex hormones. It will disrupt your brain chemistry, your neurotransmitter hormones. So stress eating is where you've got to find some new skills. What's something that you do, Dr. Chapa? Oh, well, one of the things when I get stressed out, I might bite into a date. I might have a little half a date or a full date.
I don't know if I've ever had a date.
Oh, my gosh. Just be careful. There's pits. There's little seeds, and they will break your tooth. That has happened to me.
Oh, no.
I think it was actually on an olive. But, I mean, nonetheless, you never want to bite into one of these little seeds. But it's like sweet candy. You know what I mean? And what if that's my coping mechanism? I have a date. Heaven forbid. Woo. So far off the rails, Chop.
Oh, no.
You know what I mean? Oh, no. I drink a glass of water. I drink a glass of Premier salt in my water. Like I put 20 shakes of salt in my water, and I'll chug-a-lug that thing down. I will do something in order to press it. What if what was a cup of coffee? Well, as long as you're not putting milk and sugar up in it, it's okay. You know what I mean? So from a stress eating perspective, I remember when I got into practice, I made a commitment to myself because I'm in the health realm, right? I was like, okay, I'm never, ever, ever going to desire or unwind to alcohol. Like that's not a way that I want to come home and decompress. Because I know that if I feed that sugar bug, I know that the alcohol disrupts neurotransmitters in my brain. It clogs up and pollutes my liver. Plus, I never really saw my parents reaching for alcohol growing up, so that really wasn't something I needed or desired or wanted. And so I don't need that,
right.
But I definitely never wanted to find myself coping with alcohol to unwind from the day. I'd rather figure out a way to speak a level of life into my body so that whenever the end of the day came and I felt a little run down, I could go, but I feel like I have the mind of Christ today. I feel like my mind is sharper than any two double-edged sword. I feel like the Lord is my strength and I shall not want. I start reaching for Scripture to be my psychological vitamins to build me up. Or what if I just go eat a nice fatty meal like a steak and green beans, Brussels sprouts, and a salad with some good butter on top of something in there, olive oil on top of something in there, some good healthy spices in there that really fire me up and get me excited.
Keep going. This sounds great.
I know, right? I mean,
Yeah.
and so that eating that kind of a meal would actually be a benefit to my body, not a stress. And the fact that I was willing to, abstain from the bread, abstain from the pie on the backside, and I had this nice, juicy, wonderful steak. My mouth is watering thinking about it. I'm saying to myself, goodbye inflammation, goodbye acidity. My brain is not as hot and burned out. My body's not as hot and burned out. And my body's able to rest and digest. It's able to heal, recover, and repair. That is something that we've got to understand. So to answer that question, no doubt your patterns and upbringing will affect you. But is that how you're going to be identified? Are you stuck in that space? Or are you willing to do something different, to do something new in order to feel a better way? So, any others?
Well, yeah, there is another question. They want to know if you ever eat unhealthy.
Oh, I do. Yes. I'm not perfect by any stretch of the imagination. I had to get a cheat meal at least once every 10 days. And it depends on, what I'm in the mood for. Honestly, my cheat meals are just let's just say I go to Saltgrass. I like Saltgrass. I mean, everybody's familiar with Saltgrass.
I like Saltgrass.
I'll get a piece of their, not a loaf, but a piece of their bread, maybe a piece and a half, maybe two. I get a salad. I put the dressing on the side, no cheese, and I dip my lettuce and stuff in the dressings. I get a steak. Typically, I'll drag my mom with me because she likes to eat that too, and we'll split a steak, and we'll probably get shrimp and steak, and if they have, I'll do Brussels sprouts. If they don't, we'll do green beans and a baked potato. The baked potato would be my big splurge. It's just caked full of good butter and chives and some salt, pepper, and bacon bits. You know what I mean? And then the cheat, though, is on the front end. I forgot. This is my most favorite thing is the Range Rattler, which does have mozzarella cheese in it. But I mean, you just can't say no to it.
Wrap it in bacon, jalapeno. If you don't know,
yeah, I don't know if is it bacon in there. I don't know if it is.
There's all kinds of delicious.
There's all kinds of delicious goodness in there for sure. So that would be a cheat for me, and that would be good. I would also, I like cheating with a hamburger, but it has to be good quality. So.
Where do you go? I know you've talked about a burger somewhere.
The Hyde Park has got that double. I found another double that I really liked over at Whiskey Cake. You know what I mean? So I'm definitely a sucker for a good burger. And so I'll suck down that kind of stuff. So yeah, I definitely cheat, but I don't really cheat these days. My cheating is definitely not I'm not eating candy. I really do strive to stay away from milk, ice cream, things like that.
Even on Easter?
Even on Easter, yeah.
You're not hunting eggs and chocolate bunnies?
I don't get the chocolate bunnies. I don't do the egg. What is the Cadbury eggs, the little coconut cream-filled ones?
Cream on the inside.
I know.
I remember the commercials as a kid, and that would that's what I want. I'm sold.
I know.
It's beautiful.
Deliciously beautiful and appealing to the eyes. So yeah, I do cheat, but I also will take stuff to help offset it. Somebody asked me yesterday, well, what do you do if I cheat? If circumstantially I found myself cheating
on Easter,
yeah, here it comes. What would I do? It'd be Thymex. I would chew up some Thymex at bedtime as well as after I cheated in order to upregulate the immune system to get rid of the to help my immune system get rid of any burdens that might come from feeding yeast or parasites or bacteria or viruses. And then I would take AF Beta Food or Liver Force or SP Cleanse. These are my three favorite liver products in order to maximize the processing plant to get rid of excess chemicals from the dyes and the junk that might be in the food that we ate. Or maybe they use crappy butter and I just allowed it. I try to go to places that don't use crappy butter, but bad butter or bad oils can clog up your liver for 3 to 6 months. So taking liver support can decongest that trash in the lines.
I could see you bringing your own butter. Been just
can you use mine?
Here, take this.
Yeah. So no doubt about it. And then I take a product called Cataplex AC. The vitamin A, the vitamin C factors, the cofactors, all the different constituents from these foods will heal, soothe, and strengthen my GI tract. When I seal and heal the gut lining and put any fires out from any irritations from food that I chose to eat, I'm just going to try to minimize the damage. So I'll take 3 at dinner, 3 at bedtime of the Cataplex AC. The Thymex, I'll chew up 3 at dinner, 3 at bedtime. And the AF Beta Food, or the others I'd take 3 as well, dinner, bedtime. And that helps prepare the body going into a sleep state. Like we talked about in a recent show about how powerful and wonderful sleep is. We don't want to set ourselves up for failure by eating this late night cheat meal and wondering why we've got meat sweats all night long, when we could have just given the body a little extra gusto in the liver department, process it out just fine. You're not sweating all night.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's a pretty easy solution to my, any cheating that I might get into.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. All right. So, stress. Constant stress leads to mineral depletion. And when your minerals get low, remember, your body uses minerals, and if you get low or depleted in minerals, your recovery in the gym is going to be slower. Your recovery mentally from yesterday is going to be lacking. And so now you're waking up into the next day with your mind restless, your mind agitated, and you're just pretty much almost starting your day weaker than you could have started if you just had, repleted those minerals, giving your body extra mineral force, extra Intramin, helping your body with the calcium needs. As much as I'm active and standing on my feet all day long, I take a little quarter to a half teaspoon of calcium magnesium powder every night. That white powder that I use, it's so easy, and it just helps to soothe the muscles, soothe the mind, and drift off to sleep you go. And then that recovery, now I'm not fatigued like we talked about in recent shows. I am just tired going to bed, waking up feeling refreshed in the morning, as we should. It's okay to be tired as long as rest relieves it. If you are tired and rest does not relieve it, a nap does not relieve it, and you're just living tired, you're actually fatigued. That's the definition. Tired is relieved with rest. Fatigue is not relieved with rest. And so we want to make sure that your stress response is managed by having a healthy mineral status. And so we come in constantly using minerals as a flame retardant, an inflammation reducer, in order to keep the electrical competency, the cell-to-cell communication as high and vibrant as possible, so that when you're presented with those people that seem to push your buttons, they don't seem to be able to find the button. You seem like you're in a good place. That's possible. Mm-hmm. It is indeed possible, and we see it day in and day out. People handling stress in managerial positions and promotional positions and their family hierarchy. That is what I think one of the most amazing things that I see in practice every day is when the same stress. I can't fix crazy in your life, but I can help your body deal with crazy better. Not that you should, right? But I can and do see improvement in how the body manages and deals with the mineral the stresses through mineral repletion, getting the mineral balance back up. Okay, so I think we already talked about the adrenal issues. Well, here's something else interesting about stress. Like, you got these stressful triggers, and these stressful triggers, they constantly are punching like a punching bag on your adrenal glands being the punching bag, right? Your adrenal glands live on top of your kidneys. They're very small, but they're the first gland developed in the womb. And when stress is continuously high in the womb, out of the womb, on into your life, and you find yourself always in these reactionary states, the adrenal glands have lost their tone. One of the early signs that we talked about in the past show was that when the adrenal glands are weak, you will not be able to, you'll wake up in the middle of the night and stare at the ceiling. And you just kind of wonder, how come everybody else is asleep? It's not really fair that I'm wide awake. And it's your adrenal glands that need the support. Now, should you take a bunch of adrenal support right there in that moment? Maybe, maybe not. I don't know. We got to listen to the story. So at Living Well Clinical Nutrition Center, we're always listening to the story. We're always putting the pieces together, because sometimes it takes a month of communication with people in order to get and extrapolate all the data out that we want in order to complete their therapy plan because they're so messed up. We love looking at blood work. We love looking at their health history, their toxicity questionnaire. We like looking at their food record.
Sorry.
Whoa, cool.
Hit a button.
I heard myself.
It's a playback.
Oh, okay. That was that was probably necessary.
It's an audio test.
That's right.
And I didn't mean to run it. I was actually trying to switch a camera shot, and my finger slipped. So.
Yeah, it's all good.
Yeah.
but your adrenals under stress long term will affect your sleep, and it typically affects your sleep because you'll know it's adrenal because you'll wake up, stare at the ceiling, and can't go back to sleep. You're like, I don't have to pee. I just am wide awake. And it's because your adrenals release too much cortisol, which release too much sugar, which caused you to feel alert and vibrant and ready to get up. But you're thinking, I don't have to get up for 2 more hours. This is cray-cray, right?
Mm-hmm.
Wouldn't you like to get 7 or 8 hours of sleep as opposed to 5 or 6? Yeah, buddy. Got to make sure that we get that repletion. Okay, so we want to interrupt the cycle as much as possible. So we kind of talked a moment ago. We want to balance acidity. We want to make sure that we're measuring acidity, balancing acidity, and we do that through mineral repletion. We do that through infection support. So the body, when it's burdened with a bunch of biofilms and bacterium, parasites, fungi, yeast, any of that stuff, viruses, the body needs the minerals to be as high as possible because when there's a bioburden, an immune burden, there is a low mineral status for sure. So I could come in with every patient comfortably and put them on a multi-mineral like our Mineral Force. I do a lot of times use that. Why? Because the body needs constant supply of minerals driving it onward, upward, goodward, and Godward, and creating a high potency cell-to-cell communication and getting those numbers up. And we see that in the blood work, we see that in the pH, and we hear that in the way they respond to stressors or stress in life. So that's one cool thing we can do. We want to get abundant vitamins and minerals. Well, where are we going to get that? We use a product called Catalin. 200 phytonutrients, phytochemicals packed in a powder, tableted up. We can get a ton of nutrients in the body by using this product. And we have others, but this is just some of our favorite ones. The Trace Minerals B12, another goodie, especially if we know that there's known metabolic glitches. Let's say we have a systemic inflammatory issue. We could use the Mineral Force, but we know in this case there's a thyroid glitch also in the quote-unquote biochemical stressors. The hormones are off metabolically. We could come in with something like the Trace Minerals B12 because it's going to have your basic building blocks, your minerals, and iodine, which will help upregulate the thyroid output. That's a cool thing for people that need a little boost in that department. And so Trace Minerals B12, super safe, super wonderful, even if you're on medications. Love this product. Still use it quite frequently in addition to the Mineral Force. We want to make sure that we want to decrease inflammation in the body, and when we're dealing with stress. And we have several, GI inflammatory reducing protocols. When the GI tract is inflamed, we want you to do our 10-day inflammation reducing program. You can just call our office, 281-554-8600, or email us at info@justliveWell.com, and we can send you what that little booklet looks like. It's very easy. It's 10 days, has a meal plan, has, supplement recommendations, and we can build it, tailor it, we can tweak it, make it more user-friendly for you. But the idea is 10 days? Are you kidding me? To reduce inflammation? I have one lady, she comes and does this every month because she finds that 10 days a month, it controls and manages the rheumatoid arthritis that she's been suffering with for so many long. And but decreasing inflammation is a huge deal. We like to use Boswellia. We like to use Inflammaforce. That's those two of my favorite shake and supplements in order to reduce the inflammatory burdens that are in the body. So we're using not just minerals, but we're then coming alongside with other vitamins and nutrients, the Inflammaforce. Which the Inflammaforce is really cool because it's a shake powder that tastes great, but it reduces inflammation in the brain. Oh, we talked about that already. Now your bandwidth is higher. It decreases inflammation in the blood. Oh, so now our taxi services have a clear road to drive on. They're not driving, 35 or 10 on a 75, mile hours per hour highway. We've got the GI tract reducing inflammation. So the brain, the blood, and the GI tract can be improved inflammation-wise by using something like Inflammaforce. It tastes good again, and it works phenomenally well. And you mix that with Boswellia and Glutashield, and now you're sealing and healing the gut lining, and you're decreasing inflammation throughout all tissues of the body. That is money. That is like you invest in your GI tract, and you're going to get benefit from so many different angles. I mean, your body's going to perform better because the GI tract is involved in everything. If I had a target painted on every patient, didn't know anything about their history, and I just supported their GI tract, I believe that I would still see a phenomenal improvement in people's overall health and well-being.
Glutashield's delicious.
Oh,
it's very good. It's the best.
Oh, yeah.
Out of all the supplements that I've had, that's one of my favorites that y'all have there. Here's a question, and it has to do with menstrual cycles. So it says, question with females in our menstrual cycles, when it comes to stress, what's up with that? It's never a win-win situation. Stress with birth control, a menstrual cycle, and balance, I suppose.
Yep. Well, number one, the third leading feeder of yeast overgrowth in the body is birth control pills. So that definitely feeds into the bioburden, the biofilm accumulation, the infectious burden, the immune deficiency that people are carrying. Oh, man, it sounds like a no-win. I've got to be on birth control. Well, no, you don't. But, I understand that's what they've told you. So we got to look at the hormones. We've got to then come in and go, okay, so if your hormones are irregular, your monthly cycle is irregular, it could be simply the adrenal glands just need more support because your body is converting sex hormones to stress hormones because your stress load is too high. You're like pushing the margin so close where your body's like, I don't have time to make sex hormones right now. I am rather keep you alive and run from that grizzly bear faster than so-and-so and such, so that the bear eats them, not you. And that is something that we have to look at, is going back to looking at the cycle and saying, oh, what's the endocrine axis doing? So when we run blood work, for example, and we look at hormones, we also look at thyroid function. We also look at other biomarkers to see what your mineral status looks like, to see what your liver output is, your thyroid output is, in order to see who is playing a part in your hormonal chain. The liver, the GI tract, the thyroid are all playing with the adrenals and regulating the ovaries, making sure the ovaries are doing what they were designed to. So we would come alongside you at that point, not take you off birth control day one. We wouldn't take you off any medication. That's not our job. Our job is to support your body to a point where you feel so good that you go back to your doctor and say, I feel so good, I don't need this drug no more. They take you off the drug. And you go, woohoo, I'm drug free. Does that make sense?
It does.
That's the epitome of good health. So when your cycle is off, it could take 3 cycles, 90 days, in order to balance it back out. So if your cycle is already irregular and already problematic and already symptomatic and already something that you do not look forward to, worry not. We can unravel it. We can help you find the chink in the armor, so to speak, and repair it so that the body cycles and you have a healthy monthly washing of the hands detox with no negative side effect. Almost like you wake up today and you go, oh, it's cycle day. And you didn't realize because you didn't have the pre-menstrual headaches. You didn't have the pre-menstrual acne. You didn't have the pre-menstrual, so I say, irritability, right? That's good. That's a sign that your adrenal glands, your thyroid, your liver are doing what they're doing in relationship to what the ovaries need them to do. You mean everybody's actually doing their job? Yes, that is possible. That's what we see when we're working with patients, and that's what we want you guys to experience as well. And so that's an excellent question, and I hope I answered it. If I didn't, ask it again in a different way, and we'll try it again, because Gordy's very good at making me answer questions. which I love. It's fun.
Yeah.
So we know that stress can affect sleep. So we're going to come in and improve sleep conditions. We're going to make sure the room is cold. We're going to make sure that you maybe have some peppermint or on your nightstand so that you can rub it on your calves and it will drive blood flow to the calves in order to keep the cramps down. Oh, that's a cool trick. The calcium magnesium powder. If we have the calcium magnesium powder, it'll help alleviate cramps, aches all throughout the body, especially if you're a very active human being. And then if we have to, we're going to come in with B vitamin support and other calming minerals. And so Cataplex G, Mentran, these are very useful, what I call cooling, calming energy, that you still will get, have an energy, but you won't be so like jacked up, like you're like buzzy. You'll feel very clear-headed and very focused, but very calm. I call it the calm, cool energy. Oh, I love calm, cool energy. And we want to support the basic building blocks for the adrenals, and we'll do that through vitamin C. But when we're looking at cases of hormonal disruption, we also know sleep's a component. We also know that the hormones are a component. So we want to come in and support those systems. We're not going to do we're not going to do the system's job for it. I'm not going to put you on exogenous hormones in order to balance you out. I'm going to give your body the time, 90 days, to reset itself. But you should notice every cycle that your period is better. Your release, your detox. It's actually more like a detox effect, not like a something you dread. And that's nice. Okay. Any other questions?
Not right now, no,
All
sir.
right, good. All right, so supporting the glandular system is one of my favorite things to do. I call it, releasing the vibrant energy of the body. And so I think we might leave that for a different show where we're just going to go into like the whole glandular axis, the hypothalamus, the pituitary, the thyroid, the adrenals, and the ovaries or testes, depending on gender, and we will build backwards. But, at Living Well, our mission is to get sick people well without drugs and without surgery. We want to give people tools. We want to give people resources. So today we talked about stress. We talked about some ways to assess stress, 0 to 10 scale. If you're a 7 or a 10, you need support. If you're waking up in the middle of the night staring at the ceiling, you need support. If you're unable to break down food and you have diarrhea or constipation, then you need support. And if your mind is blank and you can't remember names, numbers, and word, odds are you need support. Your body's stress response system can be managed. And we can teach you new skills in order to make sure that you don't get triggered into that primal fight or flight response where you kind of regret how the outcome played out. Ooh, let's stop living in regret, Gardy, and let's start focusing on the good things ahead, even when so-and-so and cuts you off in traffic. And a part of you really wants to tell you to tell him how the cow ate the cabbage, but no, not this time. You're going to let that slide. And you're just going to say, God bless you. I mean, I remember this one morning. I know we got to wrap up, but this is a good story because I legitimately deserved a tongue lashing. I mean, we've all done stupid things driving, yes? I mean, raise a hand. Here's mine. Here's my foot. Here's my, And I literally, it was a foggy morning, but it was 5:30 in the morning. Like, who's on the road at 5:30 in the morning?
You.
And apparently. I'm at a 4-way stop, and I did not, it was so foggy I couldn't look left or right anyway, so I just didn't. I just was like, nobody's out. I'm turning right. That's what I do every morning. Nobody's ever there. Well, this particular morning, I'm thankful that this other fella was focused at 5:30 because I wasn't. And I'm surprised. I don't know how I didn't T-bone him, but I did not. And he honked. We were able to work it out. He rolls up on my side, and, I mean, he's got the top down in his car, although it was foggy, so I'm kind of still confused. But I roll my window down, and I go, dude, I deserve whatever you're about to say. Just don't let me be the reason you have a bad day. And he just kind of, you could tell he wanted to say something, but he got it. And he just let it go. And, I the same thing happened one time. I pulled out in front of somebody, and boy, I never got a chance to tell this gal that I was sorry because I mean she would have had to have stopped her outrage and telling me how bad I was of a human. I said, "You're totally right. Bring it on. Pile it on. I'll take it. I'll discard it later for you. I'm so sorry that that I've ruined your day."
This seems like it happens a lot with you.
2 times that I have a story of this particular situation.
Okay.
But it's only 2 times that I've actually pulled out in front of people.
See, I can't recall any.
Really?
Except for one.
Okay, good. That's right. So, but again, I think that when your body is not in an inflamed state and your mineral levels are in check, your vitamins and essential fatty acid levels are in check, you're supporting your adrenal glands, recognizing that we live in an age where we're busy, and we need stress support, always, and forever, then guess what? You're going to handle when somebody gives you a tongue lashing. You're going to avoid situations where you could get, a beating, and you're going to appreciate that, such and such and so that's having a bad day might be overreacting towards you, but because you're not living in the reactionary zone in your primal brainstem, you're feeling cortical. You're feeling like a thinker. You're feeling like you can ask yourself some questions. How do I want to respond to this? I probably deserve whatever they're going to say, and Lord knows I'd love to, run my mouth back, but what's that going to solve? How am I going to feel after the fact? Am I going to just accept and move on, or am I going to let that person or that situation create mental real estate in my mind, and I'm going to mull over it, making a mountain out of a molehill? Who wants to do that? Nobody. So at Living Well Clinical Nutrition Center, we're always about trying to give you the nutritional status, the foundation that you need in order to balance out the stress responses that you're faced with day in and day out. And the good news is you can do it. The good news is you deserve it. You need to get these things in check and in balance because you will perform better in your job. You will sleep deeper, recover faster so that you can play harder and live better day in and day out. And that's what we want to see for you. We want to see you live better, be better, and stay better one bite at a time. We want to see you respond better to circumstances avoidable and circumstances that are unavoidable in your life. We know that you can do all things through Christ. We know that you can be an overcomer when it comes to managing and dealing with stress. And my encouragement is what does the Word of God say about that situation? What does the Word say? Do not be anxious about anything, but in everything. By what? Prayer and petition, present your request to God. And then what? The peace of God that surpasses all understanding will guard your heart, your mind, your soul. Sometimes if we just practice these these skill sets of putting different cues and triggers surrounding some of our old triggers and cues, then instead of letting people trigger us, we're able to respond in appropriate ways, and no one is hurt. Even though it does sometimes hurt, we don't let our response create a regret. We let our way of living show Christ, show love, and show mercy that we probably need bestowed upon us for some of the dumb things that we do throughout the day. Whenever we're able to give it back to others in a healthy way. So at Living Well Clinical Nutrition Center, we're all about finding solutions. We want to help you live better, stay better, be better in every area of your life. Give us a call, 281-554-8600. And Gardy, tell them one last time, where can they find some of our podcasts?
If you go to Spotify, you go to Apple Podcasts, wherever you get those podcasts from, you can search Living Well Clinical Nutrition Center. You can search Dr. Aaron Chapa. You can search Just Live Well. It'll pop up. Make sure you subscribe. This episode will be uploaded here shortly. And then you can get those notifications, let you know. You can go back and listen to past weeks and episodes. It's super beneficial, and it's really easy. If you don't listen to podcasts, I highly recommend that you start because it's a great way in the car, on the go, wherever you're at. You can pause it, catch up on it, whatever you want. Spread the information. You can send it to a friend. So thank you guys for tuning in. Dr. Chapa, thank you for joining today. I appreciate you.
Oh, man, love to be here every week. Definitely. Thank you for bringing me on every week, and God bless you guys. Have a blessed week.